At 1:17 in the morning, my roommate stood barefoot beside the couch, tucked a blanket under my chin like I was a child with a fever, and whispered, "Please don't look at me like that anymore, Miles. I'm not strong enough to keep pretending." I was not asleep. I was not even close. I was lying there with one eye cracked open, heart punching my ribs like it wanted out, trying to figure out if I had just heard the beginning of a confession or the end of whatever quiet little life we'd built in apartment 4B. My name is Miles Bennett. I was 33 years old, a structural draftsman for a small architecture firm in Denver, and I had become very good at making things stand up straight on paper while my personal life leaned dangerously to one side. 2 years earlier, I'd ended an engagement 6 weeks before the wedding after finding out my fiance had been less committed to the whole forsaking all others portion of the program. Since then, I'd kept things simple: work, gym, groceries, rent paid on time. No dramatic women, no late night arguments, no feeling so much that it made a man stupid. Then Anna Fletcher moved into my spare room with 3 suitcases, a chipped yellow kettle, and the kind of smile that made simplicity feel like a coward's hobby. Anna was 31, taught art at a middle school, and had paint on her hands more often than not. She had dark auburn hair she usually pinned up with a pencil, hazel eyes that missed nothing, and a talent for making every room feel like someone had just opened a window. She wasn't delicate. That was the first thing I liked about her. She carried boxes like she was personally offended by gravity. She argued with my coffee machine. She told the guy upstairs his bass guitar sounded emotionally underdeveloped, and somehow made him apologize. She laughed with her whole body, but when she listened, she got very still, like she was giving you a place to land. We became roommates because my younger sister knew her from a community art program and vouched for her with the words, "She's normal, responsible, and won't steal your organs." My standards were apparently low enough that this worked. Anna needed a place after her last apartment building got sold and renovated into what the landlord called luxury urban living, which meant the rent doubled and they painted one wall black. I needed help covering the mortgage on the condo I'd bought back when I still thought I was going to be a husband by 31. It was supposed to be practical. Separate rooms, separate lives, shared dishwasher. For the first month, it was exactly that. Then she started leaving sketches on the breakfast bar. Not for me, she claimed. Just because the light is better there. But sometimes I'd find my own coffee mug drawn in charcoal, or my work boots by the door, or the side of my face from an angle I didn't know she'd been watching. I started fixing things that didn't really need fixing. A loose cabinet handle, a squeaky hinge, the wobbly leg on her desk. "You know," she said one Saturday afternoon, leaning in the doorway while I knelt with a screwdriver, "some women might think you're flirting." I tightened the screw too hard and nearly stripped it. "Some men might think you're supervising." I am supervising. You're eating cereal from a mug. Leadership looks different in education. I looked up and she was smiling at me over the rim of that ridiculous mug, wearing paint-splattered jeans and one of those soft sweaters that slipped off one shoulder no matter how often she pushed it back. There are moments a man remembers because they are loud. That one was quiet. Just sunlight on her hair, the smell of cinnamon cereal, her bare foot hooked around her ankle, me realizing I wanted to stand up too close to her and see if she'd step back. She didn't. That was the problem with Anna. She didn't step back. Not when she caught me staring. Not when our hands brushed reaching for the same pan. Not when she sat beside me on the couch during movies and slowly, week by week, left less space between us. But she also never stepped forward. And I didn't either. Because we lived together. Because rent and friendship and peace were fragile things. Because I had already learned what happened when you built a future in your head and someone else quietly moved out of it. So we became experts in almost touching, almost saying it, almost making eye contact too long and pretending the room hadn't changed temperature. That Friday night, Denver got hit with one of those spring storms that acts like winter forgot its wallet and came back angry. Rain slapped the windows sideways. Traffic hissed below. Anna came home soaked from parent-teacher conferences, carrying a paper bag of takeout Thai food like it contained her last will and testament. I have been told by a 12-year-old that my class is mid, she announced, kicking the door shut. I need noodles and validation. I took the bag from her. Your class is not mid. You haven't even seen my class. I've seen your supply receipts. Anyone spending that much on glitter is either passionate or laundering money. She pointed at me. Careful, Bennett. I'm emotionally fragile and armed with spring rolls. She changed into dry clothes while I put dinner out on the coffee table. When she came back, she was wearing black leggings, wool socks, and my old gray university hoodie. I noticed immediately. She noticed me noticing. It was in the laundry room, she said. That's a confession, not a defense. It looked lonely. It has my name on the sleeve. She glanced down at the faded Bennett printed near her wrist, then raised her eyebrows. Well, now it has range. I should have said something clever. Instead, I stared at my own last name against her skin and forgot how mouths worked. Anna's smile softened first. That was worse. We ate on the couch and watched half of an old Cary Grant movie because Anna claimed modern romance had too much texting and not enough hats. Somewhere around midnight, the storm knocked the power out for 30 seconds, just long enough for the apartment to go black and for her hand to grab my forearm. Not dramatically, not fearfully, instinctively. Her fingers were warm. Her thumb landed right over my pulse, which betrayed me like it had been waiting for its big scene. When the lights flickered back on, neither of us moved. Sorry, she said, but she didn't let go. Don't be. Her eyes lifted to mine. For one reckless second, I thought she might kiss me. Then her phone buzzed on the coffee table and she pulled away like the sound had snapped a thread. The screen lit up with a name I didn't recognize. Graham. She flipped the phone face down so fast it might as well have been on fire. I pretended not to see it because I was a grown man and, allegedly, not an idiot. But something in her face closed. The laughter didn't come back right after that. She got quieter, picked at her noodles, said she was tired. I told her I'd finish the movie and clean up. She hesitated at the hallway, still wearing my hoodie, her hair loose over her shoulder. Miles? Yeah. You ever wish you could go back and meet someone earlier? Before all the bad timing? The question hit me in a place I didn't have armored. I looked at her standing there, half shadowed by the hallway light, and told the truth carefully. Sometimes I think the timing is bad because we're too scared to admit it's actually right. Her lips parted a little. Then she gave me a smile so small it almost wasn't one. Good night, she said. Good night, Anna. I stayed on the couch after the movie ended. Not because I meant to sleep there, because the room still smelled faintly like rain and her shampoo, and because my arm still remembered her hand. That's pathetic, I know. But if you've ever wanted someone you live with, you understand how ordinary furniture becomes emotionally dangerous. At some point, I must have drifted close to sleep. Not under, just near it. Then I heard her door open. Soft footsteps crossed the hallway. I kept my eyes closed because waking up felt too intimate somehow. Like I'd catch her doing something private, even though it was my living room too. She stopped beside the couch. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then the blanket I'd kicked down to my waist slid up over my chest. Her fingers brushed my shoulder. Barely. Like she had given herself permission for one stolen kindness. And that was when she whispered it. Please don't look at me like that anymore, Miles. I'm not strong enough to keep pretending. My breath nearly changed. I forced it steady. She stayed there so long I could hear the storm ticking against the glass. Then her phone buzzed again. This time, because she was standing right beside me, the screen lit up bright enough behind my closed eyelids that I saw the flash. She inhaled sharply. I opened my eyes just enough to see her looking down at the message. Graham, you have until Sunday to tell him the truth, Anna. Or I will. There are messages you can misread at 1 in the morning. You have until Sunday to tell him the truth, Anna. Or I will. That was not one of them. Anna stood over me in the blue-white glow of her phone, all the warmth gone from her face. The storm tapped at the windows. My lungs forgot their job. I should have sat up immediately, asked who Graham was, asked what truth she owed me, asked why she had just whispered a sentence that had ripped the floorboards out from under my self-control. Instead, I lay there like a coward with an excellent resting heart rate. She typed something with trembling thumbs, erased it, typed again, then locked the screen without sending. For 1 second, her hand lowered toward my hair. She stopped herself. That hurt more than the message. Then she walked back to her room and closed the door with a careful click. I did not sleep. By morning, I had built 12 terrible theories, and every single one of them had Graham wearing expensive shoes and calling her babe. At 7:40, Anna emerged in jeans and a cream sweater, hair damp from the shower, face arranged into something cheerful that did not reach her eyes. "Morning," she said. I was at the kitchen island pretending to read a work email I had opened 6 times. "Morning." She went to the cabinet for a mug. "You look terrible." "That's my natural face before coffee." "No, your natural face before coffee is brooding lumberjack. This is haunted substitute teacher." Despite myself, I smiled. Her shoulders lowered half an inch, as if she'd been waiting for permission to breathe. I hated that I gave it to her so easily. I loved that I could. She poured coffee, added too much cream, and leaned against the counter across from me. We had done this 100 times. Morning truce, shared caffeine, no one expected to be charming before 8. But today the room felt wired. I looked at her hand around the mug. "Anna." Her gaze flicked up. One word. That was all it took. Her mask cracked. "Did I wake you last night?" she asked. I could have lied. I didn't. "Yes." Her fingers tightened. "How much did you hear?" "Enough." Color rose along her throat. "Miles." "Who's Graham?" She closed her eyes, and there it was. The name had weight, history. I pushed back from the island before jealousy could make me ugly. "You don't owe me details if you don't want to give them." Her eyes opened, sharp and hurt. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Go polite on me. I can handle you being angry. I can handle questions. I cannot handle you acting like I'm some tenant who left a scratch on the hardwood." "You're not a tenant." "What am I?" The question sat between us, hot and dangerous. My answer came too fast to be safe. "The first person I look for when I come home." Anna's lips parted. The refrigerator hummed. Rainwater ticked down the glass. Somewhere upstairs, the emotionally underdeveloped bassist dropped something heavy. She set her mug down with great care. "That is not fair." "No," I said. "It's honest." Her eyes shone, and for one wild moment I thought she might cross the kitchen. Instead, she wrapped her arms around herself. "Graham is my ex." There it was. I nodded once, like a man accepting a weather report while standing in a tornado. "We were together 3 years," she continued. "He's a photographer, charming, brilliant. The kind of man who could make a room feel like it had been waiting for him." I tried not to hate him and failed immediately. Anna gave a humorless laugh. "He was also the kind of man who thought love meant access. My phone, my schedule, my friends, my work. If I had a thought he didn't approve of, he treated it like betrayal." My anger changed shape. It stopped being jealousy. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. She looked down. I'd left him 8 months before I moved in here. I thought I was done being afraid of his opinion. Then he found out where I live. Every muscle in my body went still. She noticed. "No, don't go murder face." "I don't have a murder face." "Miles, your jaw just applied for a concealed carry. Permit?" I almost laughed. "Almost." She stepped closer around the island. "He hasn't hurt me, not like that. He messages, he implies, he knows things because we still have mutual friends, and because I was stupid enough to tell him about you when we first became roommates." "About me?" Her cheeks pinked. "Not at first, not like that. Just that you were decent, quiet, safe." That word landed wrong, though I knew she didn't mean it cruelly. Then she lifted her eyes. "And then later I told him I had a problem." My voice dropped. "What problem?" She took another step. We were close enough now that I could smell her coffee and shampoo. Close enough that the sleeve of my hoodie again, brushed the back of my hand. "You," she whispered. All the theories in my head burned to ash. Anna laughed once, unsteady. "I told him I was falling for my roommate and that it was humiliating because you were kind and wounded and careful, and you looked at me like you were trying not to want me. My hand opened on the counter. Anna, he said I was using you, that I'd ruin your life, that if you knew everything about me, you'd ask me to leave. What truth does he think I need to know? She swallowed. That when I applied to live here, I already knew who you were. I stared at her. My sister worked with your sister at the community center, she said quickly. I'd seen you once before, at their fundraiser. You were outside fixing a broken tent pole in the rain, looking furious and patient at the same time. A memory stirred. Cold rain, plastic tablecloths, my sister yelling instructions, me regretting every life choice. You remember that? I asked. I sketched you when I got home. The confession came out small, embarrassed. My heart did something stupid and young. When I needed a place, Anna said, your sister mentioned you had a room. I didn't lie exactly, but I didn't tell you I'd noticed you before, that I hoped you might be, I don't know, a good place to land. I should have cared about the omission. Maybe later I would unpack it, turn it over, inspect its edges. But all I could see was Anna standing in my kitchen, looking like she expected me to confirm every cruel thing Graham had ever taught her about wanting too much. I stepped closer. She didn't back away. Anna, I said, look at me. She did. I'm glad you landed here. Her face crumpled for half a second before she caught it. I reached for her slowly, giving her every chance to refuse. My fingers touched her wrist. She turned her hand and caught mine like she'd been waiting months to stop pretending we were casual. Our palms fit. That simple, that devastating. I heard what you whispered, I said. Her eyes filled. Oh, God! Don't be embarrassed. I tucked you in like a Victorian widow and confessed to your unconscious body. You did a good job with the blanket. A laugh broke out of her, wet and startled. I smiled and her gaze dropped to my mouth. The air changed, not almost this time. I lifted my free hand to her cheek. Her skin was warm. She leaned into my palm before I even touched her fully, and that tiny surrender ruined me. I'm going to ask you something, I said. Okay. Do you want me to stop looking at you like that? Her answer was immediate. No. My thumb moved along her cheekbone. Do you want me to kiss you? Her breath caught. Then, because she was Anna, because even shaking she still had teeth, she whispered, I thought structural guys were supposed to understand when something is obviously load-bearing. I laughed against her mouth. Then I kissed her. It was soft for about 3 seconds. Then her hand fisted in my shirt, and mine slid to the small of her back, and 2 months of restraint went up like paper in a fireplace. She tasted like coffee and nerves. She made a sound so quiet I felt it more than heard it, and I pulled her closer because I wanted to be chosen by her in every language she knew. When we broke apart, her forehead rested against my chest. Well, she whispered, that complicates the lease. I kissed her hair. I'm willing to renegotiate terms. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Neither of us moved. Then she sighed, and I felt the old fear creep back into her body. I took her hand, not to protect her, to stay with her. She looked at the screen. Graham. Sunday, dinner at Marlowe's. Bring Miles. He deserves to hear what kind of woman he's falling for. Anna read Graham's message twice. Then she put the phone face down on the counter and said, very calmly, I need to throw up, commit a felony, or make pancakes. I was still close enough to feel her breath against my shirt. Pancakes seemed safest. For whom? Everyone in a 5-mile radius. She laughed, but it came out thin. I hated Graham for reaching into my kitchen and putting that sound in her mouth. Then Anna looked at me. Really looked. I don't want our first kiss to become about him. I knew what she meant. Graham had thrown a match through the window, and she was asking me not to hand him the house. So I put my hand over hers on the counter. It's not about him. No, it's about me discovering you've been secretly stealing my hoodies for romantic purposes. Her mouth twitched. Romantic? That is a serious accusation. You wore my name on your sleeve, Fletcher. I have a legal team prepared to argue it was laundry-based happenstance. I leaned closer. Your legal team is going to lose. The color that rose in her cheeks this time had nothing to do with shame. Maybe, she said softly, I wanted you to notice. There are sentences that should come with warning labels. I kissed her again because I could, because she wanted me to, because for once in my life I didn't feel like caution was noble. Her hand slid up my chest, tentative at first, then certain. She kissed like she painted, attention everywhere, fearless once she decided on the line. When we stopped, she was smiling against my mouth. Pancakes? I asked. After that, you expect me to operate a stove? I'll supervise. You're eating cereal from a mug energy, Bennett. Leadership looks different in architecture. She made pancakes anyway, burned the first two, blamed me for standing too close, and fed me a crispy edge with her fingers when I complained. It was the most domestic thing I had ever survived, and the most dangerous, because I could see it then. Not a fantasy wedding or some polished future with fake guarantees. Just mornings, her hip against the counter. My coffee beside her paint water if we weren't careful. Her drawings mixed with my blueprints. A life built from small, repeated choices. I wanted it so badly I had to set my fork down. Anna noticed. What? I'm trying not to rush you. Her expression softened. Miles? I mean it. Graham or no Graham, last night was a lot. This morning was more. You live here. I don't want you feeling trapped because I finally got brave. She came around the island and stood between my knees where I sat on the stool. That close, I had to tilt my head back to meet her eyes. You didn't trap me, she said. I have spent months inventing reasons to be in the same room as you. Like what? I once pretended I couldn't open a jar of olives. I opened that jar heroically. It had already been opened. I stared at her. She bit her lip. I loosened it, then tightened it again. That is manipulation. That is courtship. I laughed and she rested her hands on my shoulders, her thumbs brushing the collar of my t-shirt. I'm scared, she admitted. Not of you, of wanting this and finding out I misread it. You didn't. I'm messy. I noticed. There's blue paint on the light switch in the bathroom. She winced. That was an accident. There's green paint on the ceiling. That was ambition. I touched her waist, careful and sure. Anna, I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking at you. Her eyes went shiny again, but this time she didn't fold inward. She leaned down and kissed me like an answer. We did not go to Marlowe's that day. We did not answer Graham. Instead, we made Saturday ours. It wasn't a date because neither of us said the word, which made it absolutely a date. We walked to the little bookstore 3 blocks over under one umbrella, though the rain had softened to mist and there was no practical reason for her to tuck herself under my arm except that she wanted to. At the bookstore cafe, she drew ridiculous portraits of me on napkins. In the first, I had the jaw of a superhero and the eyes of a haunted Victorian farmer. Inaccurate, I said. You're right. The cheekbones need more emotional repression. In the second, she drew me as a bear in a flannel shirt holding a tiny drafting pencil. I slid my coffee toward her. That one's going in my will. You'd leave me a napkin? I'd leave you all my napkins. She went quiet at that, smile turning tender. What? I asked. You say things like jokes, she said, but sometimes they land like promises. I looked down at the table, at her hand near mine. Maybe I'm practicing. Her fingers found mine between our cups. There was no drama in it. No storm. No threatening text on screen. Just her thumb moving over my knuckle while the espresso machine hissed and an old man argued with the cashier about bookmarks. I realized I had not felt peaceful because of a woman in years. Back at the apartment, she showed me the sketchbook she'd mentioned, the one from before she moved in. She sat cross-legged on her bed, and I sat on the floor beside it because being invited into her room felt bigger than I wanted to mishandle. Her space was all color and controlled chaos. Jars of brushes, stacks of student artwork, a quilt in warm reds and golds. You can sit up here, she said. I'm being respectful. You're being weird. Respectfully weird. She rolled her eyes and patted the mattress, so I sat beside her, shoulders touching. She opened the sketchbook. There I was, under the fundraiser tent, hair wet, sleeves pushed up, scowling at a bent pole like I could intimidate it into structural compliance. You made me look better than I was. No, she said. I drew what I noticed. What did you notice? Her fingers paused on the page. That everyone else was panicking and you looked annoyed but stayed. You kept fixing things. You didn't need anyone to praise you for it. I didn't know what to say to that. She turned the page. Another sketch. Me laughing with my sister, head tipped down. I thought, Anna whispered, there's a man who doesn't know he's still gentle. The words entered me quietly and did damage. I took the sketchbook from her hands and set it aside. Then I pulled her into me. She came willingly, knees bumping mine, arms sliding around my neck. We held each other in the strange golden light of late afternoon, no urgency, no performance. Her cheek pressed to my shoulder. My hand moved slowly up and down her back. I'm out of practice, I said into her hair. At what? Being seen. She lifted her head. I can go slower. I don't want you to go away. I didn't offer that. I kissed her, and this time it was quieter, deeper. The kind of kiss that asked for tomorrow instead of stealing from tonight. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. We both looked. She exhaled. I should block him. You can. I should have done it months ago. You weren't ready. She studied me. Do you always make room for people like that? No, just you. That earned me another kiss, quick and fierce. Then she picked up the phone, opened Graham's thread, and blocked his number with a trembling thumb. For 10 full seconds, the room felt lighter. Then an email notification slid across the top of her screen. From Graham. Subject: Since you won't answer. Anna went very still. I reached for her hand. She opened it. There was no message body, just an attachment. A photo. Anna asleep on our couch 2 weeks ago, my hand resting lightly over hers. Taken from outside our living room window. For a moment, neither of us breathed. The photo filled Anna's phone screen. Our living room washed in blue evening light, Anna asleep on the couch after grading projects, me beside her with a book open in my lap. My hand covered hers. I remembered that night. I remembered looking down and finding her fingers curled near mine. I remembered making a choice so small I'd pretended it wasn't a choice at all. I had taken her hand. Someone had watched us through the window. Anna made a sound like the air had been knocked out of her. I wanted to rage. I wanted to run downstairs, search the street, find Graham, and introduce him to several structural failures. But Anna's hand was cold in mine, and this was not a moment for my temper to become another thing she had to manage. So I set the phone face down on the quilt and turned toward her. Hey, I said quietly, look at me. She did, but barely. Her eyes were huge. This is real, I said. It's serious. We'll deal with it. But right now, you are in your room, with me, and you get to decide what happens next. Her chin trembled once. I hate that he can still make me feel stupid. You're not stupid. I told him things, about you, about how safe this place felt. I handed him a map to embarrass me. You trusted someone who didn't deserve it? That's not the same. She looked down at our joined hands. You're very calm for a man with a murder face. I'm on a delay. That startled a laugh from her. Small but real. I lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles, her eyes closed. Don't be brave at me, she whispered. I'm not. You are. You're doing the Steady Miles thing. I hesitated. The Steady Miles thing is mostly panic with better posture. Anna opened her eyes and something tender moved through them. That might be the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. Your standards are concerning. My standards brought me to your spare room. And my hoodie. And your emotionally unavailable frying pan. That pan has been through a lot. She leaned forward until her forehead touched mine. The fear didn't vanish, but it loosened. Her fingers slid into my hair, not to cling, to choose contact, to remind us both that Graham did not get to be the only person in the room. I don't want him between us, she said. He isn't. He's trying. Then he's bad at architecture. This is load-bearing, remember? Her smile wobbled. You remembered. I remember everything you say when I'm trying not to kiss you. Are you trying now? No. This kiss was different from the others, not new fire, not months of almost breaking open. It was deliberate, a line drawn. Her mouth soft under mine, her hand steady against my jaw. I kissed her slowly because I wanted her to feel the difference between being wanted and being cornered. When she shifted closer, I let her set the pace. When she sighed, I wrapped my arms around her and held on. Afterward, she stayed tucked against me on the bed, cheek over my heart. We should call someone, she said. Yes. Police? Yes. My sister too. She'll threaten to remove his skin with craft scissors. Useful in a crisis, Anna breathed out. And your sister should know since she connected us. I'll tell her. She tilted her head back. Are you angry I didn't tell you sooner? About seeing you before? About Graham? I brushed hair from her face. I'm angry he made you afraid to tell me. That's a very diplomatic answer. It's also true. But are you hurt? There it was. The question underneath. I could have protected her by lying, but intimacy built on protection alone was just another kind of distance. A little, I admitted. Not because you noticed me before. God, Anna, that part. I shook my head. That part makes me want to grin like an idiot. But I wish you'd trusted that I could know the hard stuff and still want you. Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away. I'm trying to learn that, she said. I know. And you? She asked softly. Do you trust me with your hard stuff? My instinct was to make a joke. Her fingers touched my mouth before I could. No deflecting, Bennett. So I told her the thing I hated saying out loud. When my engagement ended, I wasn't just heartbroken, I was embarrassed. I had missed so much. Everyone else seemed to know before I did, and I kept thinking maybe I'd loved the idea of her more than the person. My throat tightened. After that, wanting someone felt like volunteering to be foolish. Anna's face changed, not pity, recognition. She kissed the corner of my mouth, then my cheek, then rested her forehead against mine. I don't think you're foolish, she said. I think you're careful because you loved honestly and got punished for it. Something in my chest unclenched so hard it hurt. And you? I asked. I think I learned to make myself smaller so someone else wouldn't feel insecure. Her voice was thin but firm. I don't want to do that with you. Don't. I may need reminding. I can do that. Gently? Usually. She narrowed her eyes. I smiled. Always, if you're holding craft scissors. That got me another laugh, and this time it stayed. We made the calls from her bed, side by side, shoulders touching. The police took the report, said words like documentation and pattern and call if he appears. Anna forwarded the email. Her sister swore creatively. My sister called me an idiot for not kissing Anna sooner, then cried because she was happy, then threatened Graham with community center moms. By early evening, the practical storm had passed, leaving exhaustion behind. Anna stood in the kitchen in my hoodie and her wool socks, stirring soup from a carton like it was a sacred ritual. You know, she said, this is technically our second date. Our first date was bookstore coffee? Yes. And this is? Trauma soup. Catchy. We can workshop it. I set bowls on the table. For the record, I'd like a third date with less stalking. Ambitious. Maybe dinner, candles. A place where the chef didn't come from a carton. She turned, spoon in hand. Miles Bennett, are you asking me out while I'm wearing your stolen clothing? I'm asking you out because you're wearing my stolen clothing. Her smile bloomed slowly, and it hit me harder than any threat Graham had made. Yes, she said. One condition. Dangerous. You let me pick you up at your bedroom door. She laughed. We live in the same condo. I'm a traditional man. You're ridiculous. Also traditional. After dinner, I knocked on her bedroom door. She opened it wearing the same hoodie, but she had put on red lipstick and earrings shaped like tiny gold moons. My brain briefly abandoned its profession. You look... I stopped. Her eyebrows lifted. Like a hoodie thief with excellent accessorizing? Like my Saturday night improved dramatically. She blushed, pleased and unguarded. I offered my arm. She took it with exaggerated elegance, and I escorted her 12 feet to the balcony where I'd placed 2 chairs, a blanket, and the emergency candle from the hallway closet. Denver glittered damp and cold below us. Anna leaned into my side under the blanket. "This is a good third date," she murmured. "It has ambiance. It has a candle labeled Alpine Basement. Luxury is subjective." She laughed into my shoulder, then grew quiet. "I'm still scared. I know. But I'm also happy." Her hand found mine under the blanket. "That feels almost rude considering." "Be rude?" She turned her face up. "I choose you, Miles. Not because you're safe. Because you make me feel like myself." I kissed her under that ridiculous basement-scented candle, and the city lights blurred behind my closed eyes. For a while, that was the whole world. Then Anna's phone rang inside. Unknown number. We let it ring. A voicemail appeared. Anna played it on speaker, her hand tightening around mine. Graham's voice smiled through the static. "Cute police report. Sunday still stands. Marlowe's at 7. Ask Miles what his ex-fiancée told me." For 3 seconds after Graham's voicemail ended, the balcony felt smaller than it had before. Anna's hand stayed in mine beneath the blanket. Not limp, not frightened loose. Tight. Present. "What did your ex-fiancée tell him?" she asked. I looked at the wet city lights beyond the railing. "I don't know." "Do you want to call her?" "No." She shifted beside me. "Miles." I turned to her. The candle between us smelled aggressively like Alpine Basement. Her lipstick was a little smudged from kissing me. Her hair had come loose over one shoulder, and she looked scared. Yes, but also stubborn in a way that made my chest ache. "He wants me to panic," I said. "He wants you to watch me panic. He wants to prove we're both breakable in exactly the places he guessed." "Are we?" I cupped her cheek. "Probably." Her mouth trembled. I smiled a little. "But not on command." Anna stared at me for one long beat. Then she leaned forward and kissed me. It wasn't a fearless kiss. It was better than that. It was a frightened kiss that chose me anyway. Her fingers curled in my shirt, and mine slid into her hair. And for a few quiet seconds, Graham and Sunday and every ghost either of us had dragged into that apartment lost their seats at the table. When she pulled back, she whispered, "I don't want to go to Marlowe's." "Then we don't." "But what if he sends things? What if he tells you whatever ugly version he has? Then you and I talk, here. Not in a restaurant he picked like a stage." Her eyes searched mine. "You'd believe me?" "I'd listen to you." "That isn't the same." "No," I said. "It's better. Believing without listening is just another kind of laziness." Anna went very still. Then she climbed out from under the blanket, took my hand, and pulled me inside. In the kitchen, she opened her laptop, sat beside me, and wrote Graham one email. "Miles and I will not meet you. Do not contact either of us again. Further messages, appearances, or attempts through other people will be added to the police report." She paused, then looked at me. "Too cold?" "Needs punctuation." She added a period after report. "Brutal," I said. She hit send. Then I did the thing I'd been avoiding. I called my ex-fiancée. Her name was Kendra, and hearing her voice after 2 years felt less like heartbreak and more like opening a closet I no longer used. She sounded surprised, then wary. I put her on speaker because Anna deserved not to watch me keep secrets 5 feet away. "Kendra," I said, "did a man named Graham contact you?" Silence. Then, "Yes." Anna's fingers tightened around mine. "What did you tell him?" I asked. Kendra sighed. "That you were a good man who didn't trust easily after me. That if he was trying to hurt you, he should be ashamed." I blinked. Anna's eyes lifted to mine. "That's it?" I said. "What exactly did you think I'd say?" "I don't know." Her voice softened. "Miles, I was unfaithful. I was selfish. I was not blind. You loved me better than I deserved. If some creep is using my name to scare you, don't let him." The call ended 2 minutes later with an apology I hadn't known I still needed, and forgiveness I hadn't realized I'd already given. I set the phone down. Anna's eyes were wet. What? I asked. She told the truth. Yeah. And you let me hear it. I rubbed my thumb over her hand. No more performing calm in separate rooms. She nodded, then crawled into my lap right there at the kitchen table, wrapping her arms around my neck like she had decided closeness was no longer something to ration. I held her. Not because danger was over, because this was where I wanted my hands. Sunday at 7, we were not at Marlowe's. We were at home making terrible homemade pizza. At 7:13, Graham appeared downstairs outside the building and called Anna 6 times from blocked numbers. We did not answer. We called the police. So did Mrs. Alvarez from 3A, who apparently had been waiting her whole life to describe a suspicious man with villain cheekbones to dispatch. Graham was warned, then charged weeks later after violating the order that followed. It was ugly, but it was not the center of us. The center of us was Anna teaching me how to make color charts at midnight because I said beige was basically brown with confidence. The center of us was me learning that she hated tulips but loved cheap gas station carnations. The center of us was her standing in my office doorway one Tuesday morning, wearing my hoodie again, saying, "I think we should discuss roommate boundaries." And then kissing me so thoroughly I was late to a meeting about parking garage load limits. By the following spring, Anna no longer lived in my spare room. She lived in our room. Her old room became a studio with paint on the floor despite 3 drop claws and my repeated tragic optimism. I built her shelves. She labeled one crookedly just to bother me. On the anniversary of that first whisper, we came home from dinner in a snowstorm. Real snow this time, soft and silver under the streetlights. Anna fell asleep on the couch before the movie started, one hand open beside her. I stood there for a moment, looking down at her. At the woman who had once tucked a blanket around me and thought I was asleep. At the woman who had whispered the truth before either of us was brave enough to say it awake. I covered her with the quilt from our bed. Her eyes opened just a little. "Don't look at me like that," she murmured. My heart stopped out of habit. Then she smiled, sleepy and wicked. "Unless you plan to marry me someday." I knelt beside the couch and took her hand. "Anna," I said, "I've had the ring for 3 weeks." Her eyes flew open. The proposal was not elegant. I knocked my knee against the coffee table. She cried before I finished the question. I cried after she said yes. The ring box got stuck in my coat pocket and she laughed so hard she had to help me pull it free. But when I slid the ring onto her finger, snow ticking softly against the window, her hand shook in mine for an entirely different reason than it had before. And when she whispered, "I'm strong enough now," I kissed her until the storm outside became background noise. What would you have done if you thought I was asleep and heard your roommate whisper that she couldn't keep pretending about you? Have you ever experienced something similar? Overheard a confession, a secret, or truth that changed everything? Tell your story in the comments. If you liked this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.